What's up, everybody? It is The Affair Season 3, Episode 1 recap. We're excited. Are you excited? I don't know about you, but we're excited. Let's get it.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I was screaming into the canyon at the moment of my death.
What did you say? You said you heard this and you just like started crying?
Joyous.
Oh, joyous. Cheers and joy.
It's very artistic tonight.
It
Beautiful. It's like a momentous occasion.
Avalanche. Get the...
I never knew.
And
when he died, the widow cried, then to die, and they made do.
Then the beat should just drop like...
So basically, we're in the club.
Right, basically. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Oh my gosh, excitement overload. The Affair Season 3. We've been waiting almost a year. Oh my gosh, and it is here, and it did not disappoint, I will say. I'm excited to get into this. I am your host, Lem Gonsalves. You can find me always at The Poet Saint. Also, make sure you check my new website out, stayonthemic.com. Of course, I have lovely ladies with me that I can't do this by myself. And I'm so excited. That's actually why I do the show. I don't really like the show. I just like the host that I do. Like, I'm just saying.
Whatever.
But right next to me, we have Miss Alison Dean. What's up, lady?
Hello, I'm Alison Dean. You can find me everywhere at the Alison Dean. So happy to be back. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes. And we have a new person joining us. Super excited. Miss Nadine Della Pelle. What's up?
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on here. You can find me everywhere at Nadine DP and the number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
And of course, my A1 since day one.
What's up?
April Whisenhant. What's up, girl?
Y'all, I'm so freaking excited to be back. The premiere was ridiculously amazing.
Yes.
I'm so happy. Y'all can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant.
Yes. So, let's get into it. Let's do it. So, obviously it starts off, let's kind of talk about the last episode that we saw last year, the way it ended. He ended up confessing to the crime. So there was no trial. He just said, and that was kind of to save, his girl. And so we see this happen, and then that's how they dropped it.
Wait, when you say save his girl, which girl are you referring
Helen.
to?
His old girl.
His old girl. Not his current.
Come on.
Well,
come
current
on.
at the time,
Right,
though.
exactly. And so we see him now, bearded up, right?
Oh,
and he's waiting for... You don't like this?
No.
You don't
I
like the
loved
beard?
it.
You love the beard?
I was so into it.
I love
No
facial
Shave
hair, but
November.
it was
Come
not
on.
good
No
on
Shave
him.
November.
I'm down for No Shave November, but I just prefer...
You didn't like him
Most
with the
of the
beard.
time, I prefer a little scruff, but with him, I'm like, no, you
like
need
it?
it
I
without
think
it.
Dominic West is much better off without the beard.
Without the
Yeah.
beard.
He's
So-
just got such
So you
great
say no beard.
facial
You say no
structure.
beard. Nadine says
See,
beard all
I
the
love
way.
the mystery that came with it. I was like, he's been
Yeah.
somewhere. We're going to
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah.
And I really am into it.
I'm with Nadine.
Yeah.
I feel like it brought some character to him. A little scruff,
It definitely made him seem older because I saw
the gray.
It had the
was
little
a good,
gray speckles.
It was a good passage of time. Him.
No,
they needed to
he
do
looked
that.
older
Yeah.
with it.
Right.
Not even the gray, but he just he looked older with it.
Right.
And then obviously plus the gray.
Right.
Because I was like, something has happened to him. He's never had a beard before. It was a good little thing. But then when he shaved it, I was very happy.
I was
You
like,
were happy.
hooray!
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
thought at
really-
least he
I
was going to
was
keep it for a
sad.
couple of episodes.
Right.
Like, I was with y'all. I was like,
So
it already? Come on, man.
I thought it was kind of like a metaphor in a way,
Yeah.
though. It's as though he was trying to release some stuff from the
I do
3. I mean,
agree.
technically, this is 3 years, so
Right.
he had had it for a while.
Right.
We just
Yeah.
didn't see him with it.
We didn't see
and
him
we'll
with
see
it.
him in flashback, obviously, with
Right.
it.
And of course, I feel like with the way the show is done, the producers and the directors, there's always a reason for them doing something.
Oh,
and
yes.
so in this particular case, I think, with you, the beard, was very poetic in the sense of like he has been through something. There's been some time that has elapsed. And so we don't know yet until it gets into it.
Yeah.
But we see that there's been some things that has happened.
Right.
Speaking of, his sister Nina pops up. I love his sister Nina.
Oh, I loved him for She's the one who told him to shave his beard, though.
Right.
So I don't really like her.
Well, yeah, I didn't like that part, but I do love her. And we see that they end up going to, we find out that it's his father's funeral. And so at that point, you know now that, okay, there's been some time elapsed. But this is the introduction. We see his family come in. Obviously, we know that there's some disdain between him and his family because they don't sit together. So we know obviously that's going to come up later. And then he ends up having words with his sister. And then they leave at some point, and then they say it's being a hard time. Right. So at this point, how are you guys feeling? What do you guys think is going on?
I didn't think, at the funeral anyway, I didn't think that 3 years had passed.
You didn't
I
think
was
3
like,
years.
some sort of something has happened or changed, and I knew that we left off with him, you know, copping to the crime because he took the fall for Helen. Obviously, we know that, but
Right.
I thought like, oh, this is him, you know, just like doing something different. I didn't realize until I actually saw Stacy, and she was so much older, and because Martin and I'm blanking on his name right now, the youngest son. I'll think of it in a
Right.
second, but they looked, you know, they looked the same, but obviously they looked
Similar,
older.
yeah, right.
But I immediately thought like, oh, did he not go to jail? Like, what happened? But then, I mean, we quickly learned that he did.
We find out that he's been, obviously, it's been 3 years that he has been in prison, and that he's just been out 2 months. And we find that out because when he's talking to Helen, and she's kind of like, you know, kind of vying for him, like, hey, what's going on? You know, are you going to be with the kids? And he's like, I'm still kind of getting adjusted. And that's when we find out, you know, this whole situation. And it seemed with Helen, it seemed like she was like wanting, like, what's up? Like, she had really been kind of waiting. And we do see a flashback kind of later on where she's visiting in prison and she's worried about him. And he's kind of like, oh, it's okay. The guys here are cool. It's like a retreat, you know, all this kind of thing going on. I'm like, okay, here's Noah back, you know, that doesn't want to, like, you know, reality is suspended. But I think with her, she's like really like wanting to be with him in the sense of not necessarily be with him, but be around him, have the kids around him, be in his presence. And he's not really for that.
Well, whenever she said, this is like after the actual funeral, whenever they're at the graveyard, and she says, we need to talk, like what's going on with the kids, what's going on with where you're living and work, and what's going on with us. I was like, what's going on with us? And I tried to think back to exactly what happened at the end of last season. But then, I mean, it completely makes sense to think that whenever you're, even though they were, you know, ex-husband and ex-wife at that time, he confesses to a crime that you committed. Like, obviously, that's a huge. I get to where she would feel like this closeness to where it's like, oh, we should talk about us. Because for a second, I was like, why would you talk about the two of you?
The car ride right before Scotty was killed, there was stuff happening between the two of them in that car ride.
There was some like tension.
Yeah.
And there were not words of like, we should do this or we want to be together. No, but there was like something.
Things were being insinuated without words, and there was like touches and like little things, and so it was cryptic. It was very cryptic, and even the flashback scene when she went to see him in jail, he kept it very vague.
He said, wait for me.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, Helen is obviously, it's like, he can do no wrong.
Yeah.
So if she hears, wait for me, she's like, no problem.
Right.
But y'all took that as him being like, wait for me? I didn't think that.
Well, I think she took that.
I think that she did, but did y'all think that? I didn't
think that. I think that she thought that, and I think that I think with Helen, I think she definitely wants them all to be together at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Despite anything that's gone on, she's like, I want my family together. I want the kids to be with, you know, and even that one scene, and it was very telling of where he is with everything, because when it's, you know, they're after the funeral's done, right? They're at the gravesite, and, you know, you see the sister, Nina, is like, hey, you guys should come over, you know, and you could tell that he doesn't want them there.
Right.
And she's like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, well, da da da. And she knows kind of his antics and when he doesn't want something. And I think she kind of just conceded and was like, okay, he doesn't want me there. Hey, there's a school night or what have you.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, for me, and I know we'll see it like later on in the episodes, as to why he's being so cold. And I'm like, you've been 3 years in jail. Your family is hates you. You know, you can see Martin. He rolls up. You know what I'm saying?
ridiculous,
And I'm like, Martin's driving like that. You know, and he rolls up and he's like, not having anything to do with him. You know, the kids are kind of like, you know. So I'm just trying to figure out why is he so cold, and that's really my question now that wasn't answered to me.
I think it's because you see him also try to later on in the episode try to call Alison, and she wants nothing to do with him. So it's like, yeah, he's took this fault for the woman that he used to love, but the woman that he still does love doesn't want anything to do with him
because he
took that for her, even though she doesn't know that. But I think that, Helen is, you know, living in this fake reality that her and Noah will always be together. Like, she always wants him. But he does lead her on. Like, when they did have that flashback, he literally was like, well, I did this basically for you because all the times I messed up. And, like, you deserve this. And wait for me. What the heck else are you going to think? Like, this man's going to...
ended up divorcing her and everything. But I took it as, like, for exactly what it is, into where she reads into all of these like little nuances. But that's it, like makes it more sad, and it makes me feel bad for her, because even if he was straight up and said, I did this because I didn't want you to go to jail, because what would the kids do, she still would like take it as something else. So it's like, when is Helen ever gonna get past
And
Noah?
I think, and that's going to be interesting to see as the season develops, like where she ends up. Because as of right now, he's trying to make it clear, like, I don't want anything to do with you.
But, you know, as we know, this show is totally renowned for painting these pictures, right? So in Noah's POV, this is how he paints it, right? But I'm sure we're going to relive this whole thing in her perspective as well, or pieces of it or something.
Sure.
And who knows what that's going to present. I mean, she very well could be married to someone else right now.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
True.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point too, that this is all from Noah's perspective, and the fact that we're seeing Helen wanting him so badly and him just being the one who doesn't want it, that just shows his typical narcissistic kind of behavior.
That is true, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it is his point of view. So we are seeing that through his point of view, and we have to keep that in mind, because it isn't necessarily the case.
I mean, we saw this, you know, for the first season 1, season 2. It's sort of like, wow, how drastically different
Very.
POV is from Alison. And so,
but the fact that he's still acting that way, in his own, and he knows he knows what she's doing and what he's doing to her, and he's still doing it.
Absolutely.
That's a sad
because he knows that he can. We think he's a jerk.
Any of his family, because you see his sister Nina, who he's staying with, right after he's got out of prison, and then her husband JP, and he, you know, listens in on how they're arguing. You know, JP doesn't want him being there, and then the will comes, and then we find out that the father has given it over to Noah, and not Nina. Yes, the house, and not Nina, who was taking care of him, according to JP, changing his diapers, like taking him to his visit, like whatever he needed. And Noah was just, of course, nowhere to be around because he was in prison, obviously. But even if he was not in prison, they didn't get along, so he wouldn't have done these things. And then the fact, then he turns it over. He's like, I don't even want the house. You know, you can let your. But he has no. I'm just curious as to why he has no desire to have anything with any of his family. Not only his immediate family, but then his sister, his brother-in-law, any of that.
I think right now there's...
And then even, sorry not to cut you off, but even the cryptic speech that he gave at the funeral.
Oh, the eulogy was so awful.
It was weird.
About Nina leaving.
Yeah.
And then she left.
Yeah.
He's really uncomfortable right now with everything. So obviously we're going to find out what these last 3 years were. Because obviously we have no idea. I mean, we saw one little glimmer of jail, and we saw another little glimmer of jail, and then we saw Brendan Fraser.
Which we need to talk about that.
But the thing is we don't really know how this experience has affected him on a really deep level, and how he might feel really ashamed, or he might feel all these different things that it's coming out in one episode in certain ways for us, but I mean, this whole season's gonna be a roller coaster.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Clearly something has happened to him to make him be this standoffish. And that's why I said that no matter what he does with other people, his children have always been the people that he truly loves and like supports no matter what, but he's even being that way with them because they're being a certain way with him, like when he says Stacy is scared of him and whatever. But obviously something happened in jail. That's why he's having these, whether they're hallucinations or he's actually seeing this man, whatever, from jail, something is going on. Something happened. We have no idea what his experience is like, but I mean, we can only guess that jail is a negative experience, no matter who you are.
Do you guys, or excuse me, do you ladies think that the gentleman that he's seeing in the hat, that we see that ended up being a guard, and Brandon Fraser.
Encino Man!
Right. Do you think that he's really seeing this person, or do you think it's a figment of his imagination?
I think it's a figment of his imagination.
You think so?
Yeah, I think
You
all of it
so
is.
too?
And I think he hurt himself in the kitchen. And I don't think someone came and hurt him.
Nadine, we're jumping ahead. You're going too far. No, just wait. Just wait.
Okay, so I said this to Allison before we started filming. We know in this show they show every single thing for a reason. There's always
Absolutely.
A lead to another thing that's going to happen. And they said multiple times about, him taking muscle relaxant.
Yeah.
He said it to his sister and,
Right.
another time.
He's
it was
just
just a
high.
muscle relaxant. And I don't know, I don't know the effects of those things. I don't know if they can make you hallucinate. But, I mean, clearly he sees him. This isn't like Batman. He sees him there 1 second and then he's not there another second. So he's
This isn't Batman.
whether the man was actually in his apartment or not, or whether someone was in his apartment or not, the other times during the episode, clearly he was
Right.
imagining him.
Right.
Can I just tell you how uncomfortable I was? The fact that he was doing the dishes in that place, and I was like, wait a minute, you just
Right.
let
Whose dishes?
What?
They
What?
let him
Yeah.
dishes?
Anyway,
Right.
I was very, very irked. by
Unless, is
that.
he renting a room? That's what I was wondering. A room or
Well,
the
he said
entire apartment?
Well, he said he's subletting the apartment.
so the whole okay.
The whole apartment.
That's
We'll
what I'm
assume the whole apartment.
I'm assuming the whole apartment.
That's disgusting.
One
Thank
thing-
you. They let their dishes.
So then the apartment would include the dishes, and it would also include the sheets on the bed.
Yes.
Which that
I don't
kind
wanna
of
know what
brings
those
us
look like.
to
Yeah. What is that?
But that kind of brings us to this Bowl and Branch situation that we have going on.
Love
that has to
Bowl
do
and
with
Branch.
sheets. I don't know about you, but I like my personal sheets.
Yeah.
I don't know how Noah feels about his sheets, but he's been in a lot of sheets,
Yes.
as we've seen in the past couple of episodes. And based on this new character, which we'll get into in just a second, he may be getting into some more sheets. But anyway, these particular sheets that I want to talk about are from the company Bowl and Branch, and they actually have free shipping. And they come beautifully packaged in a gorgeous gift box, so no gift wrapping is needed. And of course, the holidays are upon us, so it's a really good thing that we should look at. You can pick up a set of Bowl and Branch sheets for yourself and your guest bedroom to get in your house ready for the holidays. Now, these are 100% organic cotton sheets.
Nice.
You know, in LA, we love the organic stuff, right?
Yes, we do.
Which means that they start out super soft and even get softer over time, plus they last longer.
Softer.
Yes, softer and
longer.
Yes, I think that's a good
Two
thing.
words I like.
Right?
For sheets, guys.
With sheets. We're talking,
sheets.
We're talking about sheets, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone loves Bowl and Branch sheets because they have thousands of 5-star reviews. You all right, April? You
Yep.
gonna be good?
Yep.
So even 3 U.S. presidents sleep on Bowl and Branch sheets. That's pretty dope.
Oh.
It is.
That's,
Wow.
I think that's amazing.
No
So that's
way.
why Bowl and Branch lets you sleep on them for 30 nights. And if you're not thrilled, you can just send them back for a refund. So 30
Great.
days, you can sleep on them,
awesome.
send them back for a refund. So right now, for our listeners, so everybody out there, you can order your bowlandbranch.com and get $50 off your set of sheets.
Nice.
That's $50 off, bowlandbranch.com. Promo code, ready for this, is podcast1. So that's one spelled out. So that's PODCASTONE.
And how do you spell Bowl and Branch?
Bowl and Branch. That's a good question. So bowl, BOLL, and then branch, like a tree branch.
Cool.
Just like that.
$50 is a lot of money.
That's
off.
a lot of money
too.
off. Remember
Wow.
that. So bowlandbranch.com, BOLL, and branch.com, promo code podcast1.
Writing it down right now.
Write it down now.
I'm also
should.
left-handed.
Soft and long.
Oh.
Make sure. Get that. Nadine.
Soft and long.
So,
My favorite type of sheets.
I think favorite type of sheets. But I do want to get into this new character, Juliet.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's get into that
Which
one.
I think is going to be a fixture in this season. Uh-oh.
Okay,
Oh,
so
God.
I knew that they were going to be introducing this French teacher, professor, and there was a part of me where I was very curious how that was all going to go down. And I don't know.
You're still on the fence.
I don't dislike her, but I don't feel like I need her yet. You know what I'm saying?
I don't need her yet.
You think it's too soon?
Yeah.
It's too soon.
I need
And
Allison.
I didn't like.
That's who I need.
Yeah. Oh yes. Right. See, I still
and we only
have.
got one smidge. We didn't even get Allison. We got a voicemail.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll get a full, thing next episode.
Yeah, and this teacher isn't even sincere. You can clearly see everything that she wants. Like, before she kisses him, she's like, and you're a famous author, and then she starts making out with him. Everything she's doing, and it's just so gross. I'm like, just leave. I don't like her.
I think it was interesting. I think it was interesting how it all came about, because he's literally, first of all, me and Nadine were talking, and it's like, I thought he went to a church.
Yeah.
And he's like, he kind of lays down, he has one of his
He
flashbacks.
wasn't in a church, right?
Well, but then he wakes up, and then it's like a class is being
I
conducted.
think it's a medieval love story class in a
In
church.
a church?
Yeah.
So
It
they're
was
meeting at a
definitely a
church.
church. There was like an organ.
chapel
So
thing.
definitely- okay.
Yeah.
So they're just having class
There
in
was
the
a
chapel.
pew. He was
to-
in a pew.
He was in a pew.
It's to like really create atmosphere.
Okay,
I
but
guess.
which I still think is kind of, because I've never had any college courses in a church. So,
I haven't either, but I've had some in weird places
in
before.
places. Okay,
So.
okay. So, right. So we see her, and then she kind of, hey, how you doing? Because he just kind of wakes up like, hey. And so she ends up
Oops.
introducing himself, and then he kind of finds out later that everybody kind of been talking about him before he got there because of the whole situation. He's convicted of murder. He spent time
Famous
in jail.
author.
He's a
Seems
famous
like you would
author.
talk about,
Right.
A convict coming
Right.
to work at your
and
college.
so everybody's been talking.
huge gossip.
But she's very intrigued by him, and then she invites him to this party. Who he ends up running into the girl he made cry in his classroom, Audrey, which was, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like I didn't feel bad. Like when he made her cry, like it was like, because he was really like, he was being a jerk.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. But I mean, when she cried, I was like, okay, you didn't have to cry.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think it warranted
Well,
tears.
I thought about it in the sense of I was watching it with a couple of friends, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this poor girl," and I'm like, he is so. Like, you can tell he's just hardened. And we don't know what he's hardened by at this point. But whenever she's reading this story, that did sound, pretty pedestrian.
Right,
Like, oh, I
right.
love this man. I love him.
Right.
He's not there. It's whatever. But I felt that when he was giving her... Clearly, he could have done it in a different way.
Sure.
But whenever he was giving her his critique, he was doing it as a legitimate writer and not a professor, and not like, okay, I need to like coddle you a little bit. I need to be like,
Right.
well, this was really good, but whatever. And but it does ring true to what they said, like about our generation-ish, is we, people think that we do expect to be more like taken care of, and someone being as brutal as he was isn't looked at. You're not used to that. I'm
Right.
not looked. I would never have expected a professor to speak to me in the way that he did. But he's also a different kind of professor. He's not just your average, lit professor who's like,
Right.
oh, whatever.
Right.
But I actually liked that he was that way in that scene.
Yeah, I think that's us giving him the benefit of the doubt, though, because we know Noah. For
Yeah,
her,
that's
she
true.
doesn't know him. She doesn't
Right.
know anything. And
Right.
I
That's a
would
good
probably,
point.
I wouldn't cry, but I would feel like my face get red and like just be really awkward in that moment.
You
Be
would
like,
be
oh my
mortified.
god, mortified.
Very embarrassed,
Yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
she's just she needs to
Right.
get
I thought it was
together.
interesting
Yeah.
that at the party, so we're kind of jumping ahead, we see Juliet, Professor Legal,
Yeah.
there we go. So Professor Legal, aka Juliet, they end up going to lunch, kind of talking, and then she invites him to this party, and then he's taken aback because he goes to the party, and then there he sees Audrey. And so, of course, they have a conversation there after the fact, after a kind of weird...
Very tense.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
tense, because he's kind of being called out from his book Descent.
For rape.
Basically. A passage in the book. And then she's feeling some kind of way, and they're having this, kind of male-female kind of situation, like, oh, well, you should consent. And, and it's really, and I thought that was a good scene only because that's something that is now happening. You're seeing cases that are happening that, where consent is in question, and colleges, and there's been issues and things that have happened. So I like the fact that they did bring that up, because
Yeah.
it is a current issue.
I
that's
thought it was
happening.
interesting in the sense that last season, when we saw that all go down, we saw it from her perspective and his perspective, and
Right.
when we saw it from her perspective, it did look like rape.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting that they brought it back
Right.
in that way, in that sort of circle of people.
Sure.
I was like, okay,
Right.
this is interesting.
I appreciated so much that they said that, because out of all the messed up things that have happened in this show, that's one of the scenes that like sticks to me, or that stuck in my mind. And tonight, whenever they brought it up, I was like, I'm curious to hear what he has to say. And how he described it as being like, no, I don't think it was, or I definitely don't consider it rape, but did she fully consent? No, but did she just like, you know, succumb to the desire? Yes. Because it's exactly how I thought he would describe it, but it actually is how I think that they meant for the scene to be. I don't think that they meant it to be like him raping her, because between Noah and Alison, a lot of times like things have just gone from 0 to 60 and that fast. And so it's not like she was, you know, being like, no. Like maybe for a second she was, but then she did kind of, you know, accept. But whether that, I'm not saying like whether that's right or wrong or not, of course, but I appreciated that they brought that up, because I liked hearing what he actually thought that it was.
I agree. I thought that
I was just going to ask, what did you guys think about his response?
Yeah, he said sex can be about both wanting and not wanting. And I kind of see it more from his perspective, and the two other, like Audrey and that other woman that were at the table. And I think it's just what we were saying before, like millennials that are just, I don't know, just babies about things, but not babies about it. I mean, everyone has their own idea and their own stories when it comes to all of this type of stuff. But I do kind of agree with him in that sense as well. And that's what makes sex so erotic, like they were talking about as well, and so different. And so, I don't know, it can be passionate, it can be aggressive, whatever it may be. And if she clearly, Alison didn't clearly think it was rape. I mean, she did in a sense in her perspective, but not to the fact that she's gonna go press charges and all this stuff. It was just a different type of sex. She still kept having sex with him.
Well,
so
there's
I think
there was love.
There's love, and there's this, there's whole tone to it.
It would have been much different if she, you know, she said no, and then if like he, you know,
kept going,
and she was like, no, like stop. That's much different than what happened in the scene.
Exactly.
So
I thought it was interesting when he's talking to her and he's kind of trying to apologize to her.
When they're out on the outside?
Right.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you know, I just really want you to think outside the box. And she's like, well, I don't ever inside the box. And I'm like, first of all, chick, come on now. Like, stop it. Like, I thought that was like a lame, like, little response. Like, stop it. You need to be challenged. Like, you know, the fact that you cried when someone critiqued you in that way, that just goes to show that you're not outside the box. You're very much inside the box.
Or she's just not ready for it yet. She's protected. Crying whenever a professor speaks to you in that way is not, you know, that's not that unusual. I've been in classes where things like that have happened before. But, you know, that's why I like him as a professor, and I feel like he's actually a really good professor, is because he gives his honest opinion no matter what.
Right.
Could the delivery be a little different?
Well,
sure,
yeah, of course.
but that's also not him.
Of course.
And I think she's just very insecure. But also the fact that she turned such a 180 at the dinner table and just was so attacking her professor, like regardless at the end of the day, if he made you feel like this in class, something switched in her just to give her that. Like, I could never do that. I'd be so terrified of my grade no matter what had happened.
Well,
I don't know.
The way I took that is part of that was kind of retaliation for how she was treated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think she was like, yeah, so professor, what do you think? Is it because we was feeling, you know what I'm saying? Like she kind of got, you know, on that. So that's how I took that. I took that as, yes, she was challenging him, but at the same time, she was trying to get back at him.
Well, because she's in a protected environment.
Yeah,
sure.
I think that's what it is, the protected, because like if she was so, I don't know, insecure and crying in class, and then all of a sudden this comes out of nowhere.
Right.
And it was just like, I don't know, like what, like, yeah, it's her protectivism, but I personally, like, I would still be, like, this is still my professor for the next couple months. You still don't treat him like that regardless.
I thought that whole scene gave Professor Legal the opportunity where it sort of positioned her on Noah's side. Like she said, he suddenly had this secret ally in a way because of just kind of how eloquent she was with the whole eroticism comments and just how you could do this and not touch and do that and whatever. I just thought that whole exchange, it sort of painted very clear pictures with sort of like those characters at the table where they stood.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do we believe her though, or do we think she's just saying whatever because she wants to get in his pants?
Well, I definitely thought she wanted to get in his pants.
Definitely.
Does she actually like his book?
Definitely wants to smash.
Right.
I think
definitely.
honestly, when she said it, it brought me back to like us talking about what has actually happened between Alison and Noah and Helen and Cole and everything, because I kind of always took it, and a few of us did, like, okay, he did really love her, and so that's why he did these things, but then he did have this wife, and then he did have these kids, and whatever, and that's how she said she read the book, as this being that. And then Audrey's like, I read it as a manual for how to cheat on your wife, and you're the biggest douche in the entire world. And that's how, like, his actions and the things that have happened can be interpreted in so many ways, because you know, one action seems one way to one person and another to another.
I'm just curious with going back to Professor Legault and that whole situation when she's like praising him and she starts kissing him and all of these kind of things. I'm like, wait, what is going on? Because to me, it was like, I feel like she came off initially the way she came off very intriguing. And she had a lot to say. And then, you know, they're having a conversation at lunch and kind of the things that she was like, oh yeah, well, we've been talking, blah, blah, blah. But then when she does that, I'm like, for real, she just kind of lowered herself to where, like, where's the intrigue anymore?
I didn't think that. I thought she just wanted to get it in, honestly. I was like, she just wants something to happen.
The intrigue didn't go away for you.
It didn't, like, lower it for me, because I knew from the second, even when he was in the pew and she, like,
called him out,
tossed her hair and did whatever. It's, you know, like, sexual cues.
I
knew from the beginning, I was like, this is what she wants. I didn't think that it meant she was less intrigued by him, or that, you know, the interest wasn't real.
Well, no, I mean, she just was less intriguing to me. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
like, not that she was less intriguing to him.
Yeah.
My thing is, like, I feel like, oh, she's a professor. She's French. She's speaking, you know, all of this stuff.
That accent.
Like, right, exactly. And I'm like, oh, okay, dope. And then she's like, yeah, so you're amazing. And kiss. And I'm just like, wah, wah.
But the reality is, this season, we're going to be seeing now 5 perspectives, and her perspective is one of them. And so I think in this episode, we have not seen sort of how complex her character actually is, because they wouldn't do a 5th perspective in her eyes, if she was just like this super fan, this super fan professor.
And I definitely don't think that. That's why it didn't make it, or make her even to me less intriguing, because I think that she was correct in certain things that she said, but she was also just like, I think you're attractive and I want this to happen.
Noah's perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't notice this. I didn't
true.
notice this until they were at the house, and maybe I wasn't paying attention or looking for it or whatever, because we didn't see Alison, but he was wearing a wedding band the entire episode.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Entire episode.
Oh, snap.
Really?
I noticed it then, but then I went back and rewound. He was wearing it the whole episode.
I never noticed it. They've just been hiding it the whole time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Legault don't care. Just
Legault
saying.
does not care.
She just
She
lost
don't care.
all intrigue for me as soon as, like I said, that famous author. It was just like she heard his, like, when he had to say his name. That's why he said Noah Soloway, and then it clicked
like,
for her. I think she's bored living in New Jersey at this boring campus, and this murderer, like sexy author walks through and wakes up on her pew, and she's like, done. Here we
It's
go.
very like French.
It's so
very
French in
French.
her.
Very French. Well,
go
even
hook
the
up
fact
with
that
the
she's
murderer.
like mentioning other people.
Here you are.
She's mentioning other people that have been to prison and that have, like, she's like.
Oh, she was like, what's his
encouraging
face
It's
wrote about
fangirling.
you while you were in jail.
It's
Exactly.
so tacky. I loved her, and now I'm
just saying. See,
she can go.
Nadine
I'm
feels
done.
me. Nadine feels me.
I'm done.
But
All right, let's give it like another episode.
Well,
folks.
we'll give it another.
All right,
and again, and you did say a good point that it was his
Noah's perspective.
So
I don't think she's
venture-
going to be around long.
Yeah.
I don't want to venture too far off from what the show is about. I appreciate her character. I like her as of right now, but it's like I want my people.
Right.
You
Like,
want Alison,
I want Alison, I want Helen, I want Cole. Like, I want to know what's going on with them
Right.
before I get this whole
This
other
new perspective.
spill from this new chick.
I think that I don't think she's going to be around long, and I think that they purposely, I mean, I don't know, but I think they purposely put her into this to kind of see whether or not, because Noah's always the playboy,
Right.
if he's that same playboy, and we clearly
same
see that
guy.
he's not. So I think they only introduced her maybe for that reason, to show, yo, he's changed.
Because he's traumatized from prison.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, clearly, when he sees that like flash or the
Right.
train passing by.
The train, he has that flashback,
Train,
which I think is going to be something that's going to be an ongoing theme that we'll see that has to do with his prison stay. And I'm sure that more of his prison stay will keep coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll find out what happened, because 3 years is quite a long time.
Yes, it is.
okay, not on anything that happened in tonight's episode, but why was it only 3 years?
Because it's manslaughter, vehicular manslaughter, I think, is only around 3 to 5 years or something.
Really?
He probably got the lesser.
Well, and he even said he thought he was going to be less than 3 years.
And it was
It was actually 3 years. So he actually had the whole term.
I just thought that was so...
His whole prison sentence.
Well,
I thought it was a lot longer.
It wasn't, murder in the first, like, you intended it, right?
But I thought vehicular manslaughter...
I don't know. It depends. Every state is different, so I don't know. Like,
and it could have been a situation because he pled guilty. He might have got the lesser because if he would have went to trial.
And they probably couldn't test his blood if he was drunk or anything.
And because Scotty was, like, messed up in general.
So bottom line, he got the 3 years. He did his time. Real quick before we out, I want to talk about this whole, which kind of threw me for a loop. He hears these footsteps, right? He's in his little nasty apartment with all the dirty dishes.
Yeah.
He starts cleaning the dishes. He hears these footsteps.
Well, he also, like, the whole time he went in, okay, can I just say real fast too?
Yeah.
It really bothered me when he opened like the iron door or whatever it was, and he like pushed it open real wide and like didn't make sure it closed behind him. I'm like,
rookie.
Whoa.
What are you doing? You're in Jersey.
Like,
what are you
make
doing?
sure that thing, like, watch it. Okay, all right, we're good.
That shit. You kick that thing.
Not just like I'm gonna forge on now down the hallway. Yeah,
Down the dark
stairs.
hallway. Turn on the lights.
Right. Turn on the lights. Something.
light.
Yeah, it was all suspect. It was all
Thank
suspect.
you. Okay.
But he's cleaning dishes and then he hears these footsteps or so. All of a sudden, he's stabbed in the neck. And I'm like,
we do see a shadow.
Okay, but still, he's stabbed in the neck. Regardless of the shadow, he's stabbed in the neck, and then he starts bleeding, and then
profusely,
he's like,
spewing,
and then he's like laying down, and then that's it. And I'm like, whoa!
Because isn't that his carotid artery?
Well,
okay, you have it. I watched a lot of
April
Dexter
wants
in my
us to know a lot
lifetime.
about law and medicine right now.
Okay,
about the carotid artery.
there are multiple places on your body where literally I know this because of Dexter. I just gotta preface that.
Truth.
But okay, so like if you like cut someone in what seemed like where he was cut on your neck, you bleed out in like seconds. There's a place on like your thigh. There are a few places on your body where it's known like you literally bleed out in seconds.
Right.
So it's a major artery.
Right.
So that's why I was like, holy crap. So does this mean that
Noah's dead?
Noah's dead? Because
Dum,
if he
dum,
was
dum.
stabbed or cut on his carotid, then he's dead for sure.
Why I think it's a hallucination is because he was cleaning a knife is the last thing he was cleaning in the sink.
So too.
Also, he doesn't know how to clean dishes right. He like put soap on one plate and then starts
Right. I
you
saw
put
that
the
too.
soap on your sponge so you
I
can
saw
clean
that
multiple
too.
dishes.
I saw that too.
One, two.
I saw that too.
He was cleaning that knife.
Right.
And then when he kept hearing the dogs barking and
holding
everything, this huge big piece of sweat came down. Like you're nervous, you're scared. You're nervous and scared with a knife in your hand. You're not going to turn around and whatever is making you nervous. You're just going to stand there and get stabbed. I think he did it to himself.
So you think he did it? Okay.
I think he didn't knowingly do it to himself, but I think because he's on these muscle relaxants that I think he's actually thinking someone is in this apartment. I've been seeing this man all week long. I just saw him in this convenience store, and I mean, he broke a bottle of wine, like over
a lot of
overseeing this man.
More than $100.
I also did that I did that in the grocery store today. Not even lying. It was really embarrassing.
Wait, one or like a whole
Just
corner?
one, but it was also like a $10 bottle, so it was fine.
Oh, okay.
But anyway. But it was just the way that they showed him holding the knife before, and then the way he like grabbed his neck. It literally seemed to me like it just all seems fake, but that he genuinely thought, oh, there's someone back here, and he reached and just like accidentally.
So you don't think it's
that's
real?
what I mean.
You don't think it's real?
I think he did cut himself. I think that is
you don't
real.
think someone stabbed him?
And I don't think he did it on purpose. I don't think someone stabbed him. I think he did it to himself.
Okay. What do you think?
Let me think about this.
So there's a part of me that thinks this is all a hallucination.
The whole
Like just so he didn't stab himself.
Because that apartment was so wretched that like I'm thinking
But he
that
has no
whole
money.
thing.
Yeah.
Which also that also right there. I'm like, what happened to all the money? Like you're living in a pimp apartment in New York with Allison, and you've got like literally a ginormous.
She probably just has it all.
She does.
And he's been in jail for 3 years.
I don't know.
I'm not mad at that. I'm just when that happened, I just was like, wait, what?
Yeah, that's
like,
yes, right.
I had to really what just happened?
Right.
Like this is an interesting way to like close out, his perspective.
And I feel like we're not going to find out next week.
No.
You think, yeah.
I think it could be like a thing of the whole season. Like every episode is leading up to, is this real?
Really?
I kind of
not.
think
That would be so boring.
No, I hope not either, but I kind of think that it could be, or at least have a few episodes because we have multiple perspectives.
Right.
That's what I would love to see.
So we have, like, we don't know what Allison's doing.
Right.
So we don't know what Cole's doing. We have multiple things that we need to see that could all be happening in this time before someone stabs him or he
we
cuts
did see in the
himself.
previews that he's in the hospital and what have you.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting how that unfolds and what actually happened, and if it's Allison's version, you know, is she gonna be there? Does she go to his side? Because he's clearly in the hospital. So, and I feel like if they did Noah this week, then next week they're gonna do Allison.
Well, next week, okay, so what I read was this is the only episode where they were going to do a full hour in one person's perspective. So they're going to
The
begin
rest of them
now.
are gonna be split up?
Right, like they were doing
like
before.
they did before.
Right. Although, did they ever do any episodes last season where it was like 3 in 1? Or was
They
it
did.
just 2?
No, it was always 2 and 1.
It was
or
always
one.
2
2 and 1. But they
or-
did introduce like Cole's perspective.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
introduced Helen's perspective.
Yeah.
They
So,
did a couple
yeah.
of episodes where it was just like general.
Right.
Like where
Right.
it was no one's perspective.
I would be interested to see if, like, from Allison's perspective or Helen's perspective, they see Noah doing these hallucinations.
Yes!
Where they see him, like, turning his head
Right.
and looking, and they're clearly like, what the
What
heck
the
is
hell?
looking
What's
at?
wrong with
And he's just... I would love, because that would kind of confirm it.
And do they
That's
also
what we
see
need.
Brendan Fraser or
Right.
not?
That's, yeah. Are we seeing
That's really
Brendan?
what we want to know. Do
a
we are we
major
seeing
question.
Brendan Fraser?
Yeah.
He, really quickly, when he was in prison, we see Brendan Fraser letting him write this thing. I think that means that that's why he's picturing this man, because maybe he was doing something for this man so that he could do this other thing. I don't know.
Oh.
That's
Anyway.
deep. That was
Remains to be
real
seen.
deep right
Yeah.
there.
We're gonna see. We're gonna see.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's been our time. I want to thank you for joining us. Episode 1.
Episode 1.
Man, it's crazy.
Oh my God.
It's crazy.
Season 3?
It's season 3. It's going down. I've been your host, Lem Gonsalves. Again, you can find me at everywhere at The Poets, and also check out my new website, stayonthemic.com. Allison, where you at, girl?
You can find me everywhere at the Alison Dean.
There you go. And you can find me at Nadine DP, the number 3, all over the place.
And y'all can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure you tune in. Thank you for everyone that was on the live chat. Make sure you tune in next week because it's going to be another crazy episode.
Oh, yeah.
Until then, we'll see you later. Peace out.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.